Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Worth Your Time, Worth Your Money, an ongoing segment where I just look at the opening hours of new and upcoming games. So today we're having a look at Necesse, which has been in early access for a couple of years now, but it's just gone 1.0. It's something that's been sitting in my library for ages. I think they must have changed publisher or gone independent because I swear Hooded Horse set me up way back in the day to have a look at it initially, but however it's worked out, the developer Fair Games is now independently published and developed on this game. I'm pretty sure it was a one-man band in the beginning, but the team grew, so it's gone through a bit of a growth cycle. One could argue a pretty successful climb. It's been on overwhelmingly positive Steam reviews pretty much as long as it's existed, as far as I can tell, so I've had one eye on it, but I also have been apprehensive to jump into it for kind of more personal tastes reasons, being that I am an eclectic gamer that covers and plays everything. Generally speaking, my taste is broad, but there are still some things that I'm not 100% on board with. And they are these super sandbox, really open world and leaning heavily on the procedural and let's give the players the tools and let them make their own fun kind of space. This includes things like Terraria and Minecraft, and at first glance, Necesse. And after having played it today for a few hours, I can tell you that that judgment is correct. Now, this is not to say that the game is bad. If anything, it seems very, very solid. It's been solid in performance and just generally speaking, all the mechanics, moving parts are there. But all the stuff that kind of puts me off really enjoying something like Terraria or Minecraft is all here as well. So if that's all you want to hear, that's the main takeaway. This game is not going to convert you or change your mind if you do sit in my camp, or maybe you're vitriolic about it, but regardless, you're not a Terraria type person, then I would absolutely pass on this game. However, if you are looking for the second coming of Terraria, this is probably the bee's knees. I might talk about my personal misgivings with, specific moving parts later on, but again, I'm not here to dump on it, and I'm not even necessarily saying it's bad, but I can still appreciate a well-made game that isn't for me, and I can use my platform to try and help it find its audience. So if Minecraft was 3D Terraria in a way, or Terraria was 2D Minecraft, I thought Terraria came first, but I could eat my words. They came out around about the same time, to be honest. Necesse is top-down Terraria. It has a lot of the underpinning philosophy of infinitely delving deeper and mining resources, and the way that it actually overcomes that mining interface, because when you're on a side-on view, that's easy enough to do, but in this case there is a huge world map, but directly underneath the surface is like a one-to-one cave system as well, and all you have to do is build a little step ladder, rope ladder, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a placeable one-tile object ladder that just lets you go straight down underground no matter what, wherever. I guess it just clears the rocks that are in the way. It's very clever. It's a very novel and grounded solution to what could be a big problem if you didn't come up with this, solution. So you roll your random world, you make your dude, you can play multiplayer and all that as well. The game has a really big focus on colony building, and from that having like NPCs come along. So it starts to stray into almost RimWorld territory. But again, the nature of this beast and this sort of genre is it's more interested in scope and scale of mechanics. So while the colony building, settlement building is a big part of it, there's a really big open world that you're supposed to go out and explore. And I've been finding map fragments that find me towns and bases. You've got little missions in the background, which I haven't played Terraria since it came out, but it probably got quality of life upgrades over the years. It was always tough to find any kind of direction, versing bosses or summoning them or knowing where to go, etc. So this game sort of does have what missions there are, and it explains, you've got to build this thing or summon a ritual or whatever to get a bad guy to come in. But yeah, all the art is really quite pretty and lovely. I like the dinky music, moving from biome to biome, go up into the snow biome and crossover, and it changes theme. It's very cool. It is obviously one of those games that is designed for you to time sink, right, and put hundreds and hundreds of hours. So This is very surface level, I know that on my part, but again, it's enough for me to know what's going on. And yeah, I've enjoyed it so far, chipping away, doing things my own idiosyncratic way, but it's probably time for me to pivot into maybe even just examples of explanations of why I play games the way I play them, and how a game like this is almost infuriatingly designed to frustrate someone that thinks or behaves the way that I do. But, you know, like I said, before we get into that, it's not even supposed to be negative. It's just a candid discussion of what I want from games. But know that I recommend this game. Just make sure you're the correct target audience. So personally, when it comes to things like this, you know, open world, let's say we'll focus on the colony builder component. I prefer games like something like RimWorld, or even things that get more into sort of industry, throughput, logistics chains, that sort of stuff. You know, Factorio is an easy example, but even, you know, your Satisfactories. It's less about aesthetic and it's more about function. Function over form, I suppose. I'm not really interested in beautifying and making a pretty play space. That to me does not a game make. But at the same time, I'm not trying to say what games should be and try and gatekeep the space or anything like that. There are plenty of people that just want to Zen garden, potter around, you know, in your Stardew Valleys and all that, and just beautify your own little space. Having said that, I probably would like Stardew Valley a lot more than this because, again, it feels much more mechanically driven, as opposed to more open, meandering, you know, bordering on this idea I've floated before where the developers start to stray from actual gameplay design, where they go, well, we're just going to make this sandbox and give it a bunch of tools, almost like an easel with a paint set, and give it to the player and say, make up your own fun, make up your own game. This starts straying in that direction. Don't get me wrong, I understand there's so much more game there, and there's like world bosses and all that sort of stuff, and those are the things that would actually get me to keep playing this if it were not for the way that I feel this game and its ilk don't really respect your time, at least in the way that I want it respected. It is a two-way conversation. It's my time to waste if I want to waste it on a video game, but I do find things that sort of stray a little bit more meandering and open world, grind heavy and aesthetically based, bog me down in what I would call nothingness as far as gameplay mechanics, but again, apologetically, would still appeal to someone that's worried about making a pretty base. And, you know, I will give you examples of my time with this as well. So it would seem that you can get like a rudimentary colony automation system going on. That's why I mentioned RimWorld, because it kind of reminds me of at least if you boil it down to just the colony management aspects, it's a worse version of RimWorld. But again, that's just one-to-one. That's all of what RimWorld is, and that's only part of what this game is. But it has like a bills system, and whereas in RimWorld, most bills are functional, even when it comes down to clothing or hat types. There might be different cowboy hats and this, that, and the other. They still function. Individual pawns will prefer certain hats over other ones. So if you queue up the bill and say, hey, let's make sure that there's always one or two cowboy hats built in stock, right? They're going to switch them out as they decide to wear a hat that's their favorite color or whatever. And to me, that gives a little bit of life to the colony that's not under my iron fist control. I'm not worried about making everyone wearing matching hats. I'm happy to give them the hats and let them put them on as they see fit. But even then, they can potentially be like religious icons or turbans or something like that, right? So while there is an aesthetic component to clothing in bills and queuing them up and crafting them and getting your dudes to sort of auto manage that part of the world, at the end of the day, it still has a lot of function and a lot of gameplay mechanics behind it. Whereas something like Necesse in this case has lots and lots of different crafting benches and a ridiculous amount of kind of unfilterable recipe types. We're talking about cupboards and chairs and bookshelves and chandeliers and candelabras, and it's not just the wood wall, it's a pine wall or an oak wall, or you sort of get where I'm getting at. And you couple this with the bill system being actually kind of limited. There seems to be a cap of 10 bills per workstation, and even the basic starting workstation seems to have probably over 100 recipes. And you might even see it in my B-roll. This is me falling into a habit. If I was playing Satisfactory, if I was playing Factorio, if I was playing RimWorld, I want every single bill queued up and dealt with, and having a system for there, right? We're going to build pine doors. I want to make sure there's one in my storage at all given times, right? And in order to do that, I need to build 1 billion bloody workbenches. And then you start to run into real problems because the storage range of the nearby boxes that your villagers will auto draw from and deliver to becomes kind of limited when you need to put down bloody 50 workbenches or what have you. Now, the alternate is not to put a bill for every single item that's possibly craftable, in which case I'm faced with that I have to sift through and sort through hundreds of what I would call useless trash items. They're all aesthetic and pretty, and I got to figure out what's functional and what's not, and I need to dig through 100 recipes to go, well, maybe we need shears, maybe we need a fishing rod bill, that sort of thing. And you could argue that's playing the game correctly, but again, a chunk of that time is now being wasted on me having to sort through peripheral nothing bills. Anyway, this is just a bit of an example that I've gone a bit in depth in to give you an idea. And there's going to be two reactions to this. There are going to be people that go, I don't know what you're talking about. This sounds like you being anal retentive. And honestly, if you feel that way, you're probably going to just enjoy Necesse. You're probably going to be able to sort through all the recipes and be happy, and it won't trip your idiosyncratic organizational side of the brain. But I know that there's also people that, as they hear that example, that anal example that I gave, it's going to resonate with them. And these are the same people that will set up very specific throughputs on things like Factorial or Satisfactory, and they will manage resource throughput, logistics chains, that sort of stuff. So again, I feel like that example is worth having taken a little bit of time to explain as a high watermark. And it's going to be which way Necesse buyer, left or right. So yes, again, like I said, a very cool game. It seems to tick all the boxes and the mission objectives that it laid out. I had a feeling it was going to be like this going in, but I'm still trying to be a good sport and give it the fair go that it deserves. And my hope is that, well, on one hand, I save someone the trouble, not in a negative way, but save them having to go through the rigmarole of buying it and refunding it and realizing it's not for them. But inversely, I truly hope that this helps someone that is interested in this game find that game. My personal misgivings notwithstanding. Anyway, beyond that, I'll be waffling. Necesse seems great. Seems like they hit the objective, stuck the landing. The little man that went independent of their initial publisher. Now they've hit street date 1.0 and overwhelming positive reviews all across the board. It seems like it's a success story in every way, and my hope is that this video helps it find its audience. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.